The sky over Willow Creek was a pale gray, the morning mist clinging to the streets like a soft veil. Rain had passed in the early hours, leaving puddles that mirrored the dull light of dawn, and the air smelled faintly of wet earth and autumn leaves. Emily Bennett stepped off the bus, dragging her suitcase behind her, feeling the chill seep into her bones. She had always imagined returning home in triumph, her life intact, a sophisticated apartment in the city, designer clothes, and Ryan at her side. None of that remained. Now she was just a woman carrying the weight of betrayal and financial ruin, standing on the cracked pavement outside her childhood home. Emily Bennett, 32, had once been the epitome of urban sophistication. Tall, slender, with honey blonde hair cascading in waves to her shoulders, clear green eyes, and skin that caught the sun in a golden hue. Her wardrobe had been impeccable, favoring tailored suits and elegant dresses. Now she wore a wrinkled trench coat, her hair pulled into a loose ponytail, makeup faded from nights of tears, and shoes scuffed from walking to her temporary jobs. The transformation wasn't just physical. The vivacious, confident woman who had once commanded rooms now felt fragile, hollowed by abandonment and the sting of reality. Sophia Bennett, her mother, opened the door before Emily could knock. Sophia, a striking woman of 58 with steel-gray hair streaked with silver, tall and poised, always carried an air of quiet authority. Her skin was fair, with laugh lines that softened her sharp cheekbones, and her eyes, a piercing blue, seemed to see everything. She had always been elegant, even in casual clothes, exuding calmness and control. But today, there was a subtle tension in her shoulders as she took in the sight of her daughter. "Emily," Sophia said softly, her voice steady yet tinged with concern. "You're home." Emily hesitated, gripping the handle of her suitcase, her throat tight. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. Her voice, once confident and melodic, now wavered. She stepped inside, letting the door close gently behind her, the familiar scent of old wood and lavender filling her senses. The house had remained largely unchanged, a testament to decades of memories and careful upkeep. The polished oak floors reflected the dim light from the overcast sky, and framed family photographs lined the walls. A small, tabby cat named Milo, sleek and 4 years old, padded silently across the floor, brushing against Emily's legs. Milo had always been a calming presence, his amber eyes curious yet wary, as if sensing the turbulence in Emily's heart. Emily paused, unsure how to continue. "I didn't know where else to go." The words felt inadequate, trivial even, compared to the magnitude of everything she had lost. Sophia guided her gently to the living room, gesturing toward a comfortable armchair. "You don't have to explain right now," she said. "We'll get through this, together." Emily sank into the chair, feeling both relief and embarrassment. Her mind raced with memories of the past months. Ryan Carter had been charming, confident, with sharp features softened by a boyish smile, dark brown eyes that seemed to promise the world, and neatly kept black hair. Yet behind the facade had lurked deception, lies, and betrayal. Ryan had left her for another woman, leaving debts, empty promises, and emotional scars. Emily had watched her life collapse like a house of cards, each piece of comfort she once took for granted slipping from her hands. She had returned home not only financially ruined, but emotionally battered, stripped of the illusion that life in luxury equated to security. Sophia studied her daughter quietly, seeing both the exhaustion and the spark of resilience. "Emily, I won't lie," she said. "This isn't going to be easy. You'll face challenges here you've never encountered before. You'll need to earn your way, confront your mistakes, and rebuild your life step by step." Emily's stomach churned. The prospect of struggle was frightening, yet beneath the fear, a small part of her welcomed the challenge. She realized she had spent her life avoiding accountability, shielded by wealth and privilege. Now, there was no shield, only the raw reality of who she was. Over the next few hours, Emily unpacked what little she had brought back. Her suitcase was a mixture of clothing, a few sentimental items, and one leather-bound journal filled with notes and sketches she had kept since her college years. Every object she unpacked reminded her of a past self she barely recognized. Sophia moved around the room silently, making a cup of tea, her movements deliberate, calm, and reassuring. Emily's mind wandered to the financial disaster waiting for her outside the comforting walls of her childhood home. Ryan had left her with unpaid credit cards, car loans, and legal entanglements she didn't understand. She felt a wave of shame wash over her. She had been careless, indulgent, trusting someone unworthy, and now she had to confront the consequences. The thought of having to live on a strict budget, possibly taking menial jobs, and slowly untangling the mess filled her with anxiety and humiliation. Sophia sat down opposite her, placing the tea on the table. Her hands were elegant but strong, showing years of work and care, and her eyes were steady, unyielding. "Emily," she said softly, "I can help you, but I won't fix everything for you. You need to understand what it means to struggle, to earn, to value the things that matter. Only then will you know the true worth of life." Emily's chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to demand comfort, but she sensed the wisdom in her mother's words. She had spent her life avoiding pain and responsibility, and perhaps it was time to face both. She nodded, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I understand. Mom, I want to try. I want to learn." Sophia reached across the table, holding her daughter's hand firm and warm. "Then we'll start small. You'll take on responsibilities here, work with me, learn to manage your resources, and rebuild your confidence. It won't be easy, but you'll emerge stronger, I promise." Emily squeezed her mother's hand, feeling the weight of her failures, but also a faint spark of hope. As the evening shadows lengthened, the two women sat together in the quiet house, the rain outside having left the world fresh and renewed. Milo curled up beside Emily, his purring a soft reminder of life's simple comforts. Emily stared out the window at the dim horizon, a sense of determination building within her. This was not the life she had planned, not the return she had dreamed of, but perhaps it was exactly the one she needed. She was home, stripped of illusions, facing reality, and for the first time in months, ready to confront it. By nightfall, Emily had unpacked, sorted through her finances as best she could, and begun to plan her first steps toward independence. Sophia watched her quietly, pride and concern mingling in her gaze. She knew the road ahead would test Emily's resolve, but she also knew her daughter had the potential to rise, to transform, and to find the strength she never realized she had. Outside, Willow Creek settled into the stillness of the night. The house was quiet, safe, and full of possibilities. Emily lay awake that night, her mind racing with regrets, lessons, and plans. She had lost everything, yet she was beginning to understand what truly mattered: resilience, integrity, and the unwavering support of those who loved her. Tomorrow, the journey would continue, and she would meet it head-on. The sky was low and heavy, a slate-gray blanket stretching over Willow Creek, and a fine drizzle hung in the air, dampening the streets. Emily Bennett walked along the sidewalk with a canvas tote slung over her shoulder, feeling the cold drizzle soak through her trench coat. Each step was a reminder that her life had drastically changed. Gone were the days of leisurely shopping and lavish dinners. Now, Every penny, every choice, felt like a small battle for survival. Her first day at Crestwood Cleaning Services was a jolt to her system. Emily had been hired as a part-time cleaner, responsible for emptying trash, polishing desks, and vacuuming offices late at night. Crestwood's offices were modern, yet the fluorescent lights and the hum of machinery felt oppressive to someone used to spacious lofts and marble countertops. She met Mrs. Helen Johnson, a 60-year-old woman with a stocky build, short silver hair streaked with navy blue highlights, and a warmth that belied the tough exterior she had developed over 20 years of cleaning offices. Helen's hands were strong and calloused, evidence of decades of manual labor, yet her voice was gentle, guiding Emily through the intricacies of proper cleaning techniques and time management. Emily's hands shook as she carried a heavy stack of files to a dusty cabinet. She had never done manual labor on this scale, and every muscle in her body protested. Yet, beneath the soreness and exhaustion, she felt an unfamiliar sense of pride. For the first time in years, her accomplishments were measured not by her appearance or possessions, but by effort and diligence. At home, Sophia Bennett quietly observed her daughter's transformation. Sophia had arranged for Mr. Daniel Thompson, a meticulous and experienced lawyer in his late 40s, to oversee the legal entanglements left by Ryan Carter. Daniel had angular features, sharp blue eyes, and a neatly trimmed beard, giving him an authoritative presence. He had seen countless cases of fraud and betrayal, and his calm, precise demeanor reflected years of navigating human dishonesty. He kept Sophia updated discreetly, ensuring Emily's steps toward independence were not sabotaged by any lingering legal threats. Emily soon faced the grim task of liquidating her personal belongings. Jewelry that had once been gifts from her late father, heirlooms that carried sentimental value, and designer dresses from trips abroad. All were sold to cover overdue bills and urgent debts. Each item exchanged for cash felt like a piece of her past slipping away. Yet with every transaction, she learned the value of money, of sacrifice, and of patience. She was no longer protected by wealth. She had to earn, negotiate, and make decisions that could determine her survival. The psychological toll was immense. Emily often sat alone at night, staring at the dim streetlights through her bedroom window, questioning her choices. She replayed conversations with Ryan, remembering the lies, the seductive promises, the betrayal. She felt anger, sadness, and at times, overwhelming despair. Yet, she also recognized a subtle transformation. Each hardship taught her resilience, humility, and the importance of personal responsibility. She started keeping meticulous notes on her expenses, creating a budget from scratch, learning to prioritize needs over wants. One rainy afternoon, Emily received her first paycheck from Crestwood. She held the crumpled envelope in her hands, counting the modest amount, and a strange sense of accomplishment bloomed within her. It wasn't enough to cover all her debts, but it was a start. For the first time, she understood that wealth was not a measure of self-worth, and money, when hard-earned, carried a sense of dignity she had never felt before. Sophia continued to guide Emily with quiet wisdom. She did not offer financial handouts, but provided support in ways that preserved Emily's autonomy. She reminded Emily to keep receipts, track every transaction, and approach creditors with honesty and negotiation rather than avoidance. Responsibility, Sophia said one evening as they reviewed bank statements together, is the bridge between hardship and growth. You cross it step by step, and each step builds character. Emily nodded, the weight of her mother's words sinking in. Amid the struggle, Emily began to notice the small joys she had ignored in her previous life. The laughter of Milo, her tabby cat, who now demanded her attention with playful nudges. The aroma of freshly brewed tea, the satisfaction of completing tasks with her own hands, and the quiet pride in seeing debts slowly shrink. Milo, 4 years old, with amber eyes and soft gray and white fur, had always been sensitive to Emily's moods, and now he became a comforting presence, a silent witness to her rebirth. As weeks passed, Emily became adept at handling multiple responsibilities. She discovered an unexpected camaraderie among her co-workers, including Jenna, a 28-year-old single mother with chestnut hair and freckles, whose cheerful demeanor masked years of financial struggle. Jenna's resourcefulness and resilience inspired Emily, showing her that dignity was not tied to wealth, but to perseverance. Emily also met Marcus, a 50-year-old night supervisor, tall and imposing with a shaved head and a stern expression softened by a dry sense of humor. Marcus had lost his own business to economic downturns and carried a quiet understanding of hardship, which he shared sparingly but meaningfully with Emily. One evening, while Emily counted the day's earnings, her hands sore and her mind buzzing with calculations, Sophia quietly entered the room. "Daniel called today?" Sophia said, her tone neutral but firm. "Ryan's attempts to dispute the debts legally have been stalled. You are protected, and your creditors are satisfied as long as you continue managing your payments responsibly." Emily felt a mix of relief and gratitude. She realized that while her mother had secretly hired legal protection, she had not interfered in Emily's growth. She had provided a safety net without removing the challenge, a delicate balance of care and independence. The experience of selling personal items, working long hours, and budgeting every dollar reshaped Emily's understanding of privilege. She began to view luxury and wealth not as a right, but as tools, opportunities to be earned, maintained, and respected. Every financial decision became a lesson in foresight, responsibility, and self-discipline. She discovered a satisfaction in seeing debts shrink, not as numbers on a page, but as evidence of her own capability to overcome adversity. Emily also reflected on her previous sense of entitlement, realizing how much she had relied on material possessions for comfort rather than personal growth. The crushing reality of poverty forced her to reassess values she had long taken for granted: integrity, perseverance, and the importance of meaningful relationships. She began to understand her mother's intentions, recognizing that the struggle, though painful, was a necessary catalyst for personal development. By the end of the month, Emily's transformation was evident. Her posture was straighter, her demeanor calmer, and her eyes carried a newfound focus and resolve. She moved through the house and workplace with purpose, balancing financial responsibility with personal reflection. Sophia watched silently, pride and quiet satisfaction in her gaze. The fall, though harsh, had laid the foundation for Emily's rebirth, teaching her lessons no luxury could ever provide. Emily's nights were still filled with reflection, but now with clarity and direction rather than despair. She journaled diligently, tracking her progress, noting moments of insight, and acknowledging setbacks without self-pity. The physical labor, the meticulous budgeting, and the gradual repayment of debts instilled a discipline that reshaped her identity. Each day became a testament to endurance, patience, and personal accountability. Milo purred at her side as she calculated the week's finances, a constant reminder that support could be found in the smallest of companions. The fall had stripped Emily of comfort, yet it had granted her perspective, resilience, and a deep appreciation for life's fundamental truths. Sophia's quiet presence reinforced the lesson that true support empowers, rather than shields, allowing growth without coddling. As the chapter closed, Emily stood by the window, watching the drizzle turn to a gentle nightfall. She knew the path ahead was long and filled with challenges, Yet she felt prepared, grounded in the knowledge that she could confront hardship with dignity and patience. She had fallen, yes, but in the fall, she had discovered herself. The late afternoon sun filtered through the dusty blinds, casting long, golden stripes across the living room. A soft breeze from the open window carried the faint scent of rain-soaked earth, reminding Emily Bennett that life had a way of washing away illusions. Sitting cross-legged on the faded rug, Emily stared at a small, nondescript metal box she had discovered behind an old bookshelf in the attic. Its surface was scratched and worn, the lock old-fashioned, yet the weight in her hands suggested it held more than just trinkets. Emily's heart raced. She had been so focused on paying off debts and surviving the immediate hardships that she had not considered the possibility of any hidden family fortune. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in deep crimson velvet, were delicate jewelry pieces, gold chains, diamond-studded rings, heirloom brooches, and several leather-bound envelopes filled with stock certificates, bonds, and deeds. The sheer presence of these items made her breath catch. Emily's brown hair fell loosely over her shoulders, framing a pale, freckled face marked with the faint lines of recent stress. Her green eyes shimmered with a mix of awe, disbelief, and apprehension. Sophia Bennett entered quietly, her footsteps soft on the wooden floor. At 58, Sophia carried herself with an elegance that came from decades of composure and wisdom. Tall and slender, with dark chestnut hair streaked with silver and deep brown eyes that always seemed to see more than people revealed, she radiated quiet authority. Her presence reminded Emily of a lighthouse, steadfast, guiding, and unwavering. "You found it," Sophia said, her voice calm but not devoid of amusement. Emily looked up, startled. "You knew it was here?" "I did," Sophia replied, moving to sit beside her daughter. "But there is more to this than what meets the eye. You have to understand the responsibility that comes with this discovery." Emily's mind swirled with questions. "I could pay all my debts with this. I could start over, Mom. Why haven't you told me before?" Sophia shook her head gently. "Because, Emily, this isn't about money. It's about understanding the value of what you truly own, not just in currency, but in history, in legacy, and in family." Emily reached out, lifting a delicate diamond pendant from its cushion. The cold metal touched her fingers, and yet strangely, it felt warm with history. She thought of Ryan, of the lavish life that had been torn away, and of the way she had squandered opportunities. She felt a pang of guilt mixed with curiosity. How do I even decide what to do with this? It could solve everything. Sophia's eyes softened. It could. But the question is, what does it mean to solve everything? True responsibility isn't measured by the debts you pay or the wealth you possess. It's in the choices you make, how you preserve what matters, and how you honor your family's legacy. Emily's mind raced. She considered selling the jewelry, liquidating the stocks, and paying off every creditor immediately. It was tempting. The relief would be immediate, tangible. Yet a quiet voice within her, the one that had grown stronger over weeks of hardship, urged caution. She realized that this fortune was not a tool merely for escaping consequences. It was a symbol of her family's perseverance and integrity. To treat it carelessly would be to disrespect generations who had built it. As the evening deepened, Emily and Sophia went through each envelope carefully. Among the stock certificates was one for a small, independent publishing company that Emily's grandfather had helped start decades ago. Bonds dated back to the early 1980s, and property deeds revealed assets Emily had never known existed. The realization dawned on her. Her family had always been resourceful, cautious, and forward-thinking. The legacy wasn't just the wealth, it was the values encoded in its careful accumulation. Emily's thoughts drifted to the life lessons she had endured recently. The late nights cleaning offices with Mrs. Helen Johnson, the camaraderie with coworkers like Jenna, and the guidance from Marcus. All these experiences had instilled a sense of worth beyond material possessions. She could feel a subtle shift in herself. The treasure in her hands was powerful, yes, but so was the self-respect she had earned through struggle. Sophia, noticing her daughter's pensive expression, placed a reassuring hand on Emily's. "Remember, Emily, you are free to use some of these assets to stabilize your life. But you must always consider the long-term implications. Every choice you make now shapes the woman you are becoming." Emily nodded slowly. Her chest tightened as she realized that the lessons from the past months were converging. It wasn't the money that mattered. It was how she would choose to wield it, how she would honor the trust of her ancestors, and how she would grow as a person. That night, Emily stayed awake long after Sophia had retired, examining each piece, imagining the lives connected to them. She thought of her grandfather, a man of quiet determination whose investments had been strategic rather than ostentatious. She pictured her grandmother, with nimble hands and a sharp mind, carefully preserving heirlooms that held memories more than value. Each item was a testament to endurance, foresight, and love, a stark contrast to the reckless decisions she had made under Ryan's influence. A week later, Emily attended a meeting with Mr. Daniel Thompson to discuss the practicalities of securing the family assets. Daniel, always precise, presented options for legal protection and careful management. His gray-blue eyes were intent as he explained trusts, insurance policies, and asset allocation, and his strong jawline and trimmed beard added a subtle gravity to his words. Emily felt a strange sense of empowerment listening to him. The law, like money, was a tool. But wielded wisely, it could preserve dignity and protect what mattered most. Emily also confided in Milo, her gray and white tabby, who had curled up on the windowsill. His soft purring reminded her of simpler comforts and quiet companionship amid the complexities of inheritance and responsibility. The small, furry presence grounded her, reinforcing the understanding that not all value was tangible. Over the following days, Emily faced a series of decisions. Should she sell some jewelry to pay off lingering debts? Should she hold on to the stocks or invest in new opportunities? Each choice was measured against a backdrop of moral and familial responsibility. The challenge was no longer survival alone, it was thoughtful stewardship. Each decision was a test of patience, foresight, and respect for what had come before her. Sophia observed quietly, proud yet unintrusive. She understood that Emily needed to navigate this stage independently, to wrestle with the complexity of legacy. She offered counsel only when sought, emphasizing the importance of reflection and intentionality. "A legacy is not just wealth, Emily," Sophia reminded her one evening. "It's the values, the memories, the decisions that survive beyond you. Handle it with care, not urgency." Emily's internal struggle reached a peak one rainy afternoon. She held a diamond ring, imagining selling it to cover her monthly bills entirely. The temptation was real. Financial freedom called with the promise of immediate relief. Yet, a voice from her recent experiences whispered caution. What good is freedom without wisdom, without respect for the sacrifices that built this wealth? She realized that acting impulsively would erase the lessons she had painfully learned. By the end of the chapter, Emily had decided to use a modest portion of the assets to stabilize her financial standing while preserving the majority for the future. She documented each decision carefully, balancing practicality with reverence for family legacy. In doing so, she felt a profound sense of growth. Responsibility, patience, and respect for both money and family had become intertwined in her daily life. The hidden fortune had revealed more than wealth. It had revealed character, resilience, and the power of thoughtful choice. A soft drizzle fell against the windows, turning the streets outside into blurred lines of gray. Inside the cozy living room, Emily Bennett sat on the edge of the sofa, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea. The weight of recent weeks, the endless work, the sleepless nights, the mounting debts, still pressed heavily on her shoulders. But there was a glimmer of anticipation in her green eyes, a curiosity tinged with hope. The sound of the front door opening made her heart skip. Sophia Bennett, tall and elegant with chestnut hair streaked with silver and brown eyes that radiated quiet authority, entered carrying a sealed envelope. "Emily," Sophia said, her voice calm yet carrying a weight that made Emily sit straighter. "I have news that will change everything for you." Emily's pulse quickened. She set her mug down, noticing the slight crease between her mother's brows, a rare sign of tension. "What is it, Mom?" "Mr. Thompson called this morning," Sophia began, sitting beside her. "There's been a development regarding Ryan. He has been apprehended in Europe for document fraud." Emily froze, the mug slipping slightly from her hands. Ryan, the man who had destroyed her life and led her into financial ruin, caught. Relief, disbelief, and a strange sense of closure flooded her. Her chest tightened, and for a moment, she couldn't speak, the gravity of the situation overwhelming her. I'm free?" Emily's voice was a whisper. Sophia nodded. "Legally, you are no longer responsible for any of his debts. Mr. Thompson confirmed that everything is in order." Emily's mind swirled. Weeks of struggle, endless worry, and moments of despair suddenly felt both distant and intensely alive. Her eyes glistened with tears, not just from relief, but from the realization of how much she had endured and grown. She thought of every late-night cleaning offices, of her co-worker, Mrs. Helen Johnson, a sturdy woman in her 60s with streaked gray hair and kind brown eyes, who had guided her with patient hands. Each memory reinforced the lessons of humility, perseverance, and responsibility. Sophia reached over, taking Emily's hand gently. "There's more you need to know?" she said. Emily's curiosity sharpened, a nervous flutter in her stomach. "What do you mean?" Sophia opened a drawer and pulled out a folder, thick with documents, photographs, and legal papers. She handed it to Emily, who turned the pages with trembling fingers. Property deeds, investment certificates, bank statements, and other records spilled across the pages. For the first time, Emily saw the full scale of her family's wealth, carefully preserved and managed. She could feel the quiet care that had shielded her from even greater hardship. "Mom," Emily breathed, unable to form a complete sentence. The realization struck her fully. Sophia had been protecting her, guiding her indirectly, allowing her to experience hardship, but ensuring she was never truly at risk. Sophia's gaze softened. "Emily, the lesson was never about money. It was about you learning to take responsibility, to grow, to face life on your own terms. I wanted you to become the woman you are meant to be, not the woman who simply depends on wealth or luck." Emily stared at the documents, a mixture of gratitude and awe filling her chest. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and profoundly loved all at once. The woman who had once been dependent, fragile, and naive now understood the depth of her mother's wisdom. The day blurred as they went through every detail. Emily realized that every choice she had made over the past weeks, every decision to work, to stretch her budget, to confront difficult truths, had been a step towards self-reliance. And yet, the knowledge that she had been subtly protected gave her a complex mix of emotions: relief, humility, and a twinge of guilt for ever doubting her mother's intentions. Later that evening, Emily met with Mr. Daniel Thompson in his office to go over the legal documents confirming Ryan's arrest and the absolution of her debts. Daniel, a man in his mid-40s with sharp gray eyes, angular features, and a trimmed beard that lent him an air of authority, spoke with precise calm. "Emily, your legal obligations are cleared. Ryan's fraudulent activities were extensive, but the evidence we've gathered ensures that you have no liability. Your financial future is secure." Emily nodded, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time in months, she could imagine a life not dictated by fear and survival. Back at home, she discussed with Sophia how to approach the family fortune responsibly. Sophia reminded her that the wealth was more than money. It was a legacy, a testament to careful planning, hard work, and integrity. Emily felt a profound sense of connection to her ancestors and an understanding that wealth was meaningless without wisdom and ethical stewardship. She realized that her growth was not measured in dollars, but in resilience, maturity, and the ability to make thoughtful choices. In the quiet moments of reflection that night, Emily sat by the window, watching raindrops streak across the glass, each one catching the fading light like a tiny prism. Milo, her gray and white tabby, leapt onto the windowsill, curling beside her. His soft purring seemed to echo the tranquility that had begun to settle in her mind. For the first time, Emily felt fully seen, not as a woman ruined by a man's deceit, not as a daughter reliant on her mother, but as someone who had earned her place through experience, courage, and choice. The following days were a delicate dance of practical decisions and emotional processing. Emily carefully planned how to manage her debts, allocate resources from the family assets, and pursue her own goals without compromising the lessons she had learned. Every step was guided by a balance of wisdom, patience, and moral responsibility. She began to understand the subtle power of discretion and foresight, traits her mother had modeled all her life. Emily's transformation did not go unnoticed by those around her. At the local cafe where she occasionally worked part-time, her demeanor had changed. Customers and co-workers commented on her confidence, grace, and quiet authority. Even Mrs. Johnson, who had been a guiding figure in Emily's life, remarked one morning, "You carry yourself differently now. It's not just confidence, it's understanding. You've seen life, Emily, and it shows." Emily smiled, knowing that the recognition was not about superficial success, but about the inner strength she had cultivated. Sophia observed her daughter with pride. Each decision Emily made, each thoughtful action, was proof that the lessons of hardship, self-reliance, and responsibility had taken root. It was a quiet affirmation of the philosophy Sophia had followed. True strength emerges not from wealth alone, but from character, experience, and the courage to face challenges independently. By the end of the week, Emily had mapped out a plan for her finances, combining prudence with generosity. She allocated funds to settle pressing debts, invested in responsible ventures, and reserved portions for charitable causes aligned with her values. In the process, she experienced a profound sense of empowerment. She was no longer at the mercy of external forces. She had agency, foresight, and moral clarity. The revelation of Ryan's arrest and the unveiling of the family fortune were not mere plot twists. They were catalysts for Emily's evolution. She realized that her journey had never been about escape, luxury, or revenge. It was about the development of her identity, her capacity for resilience, and the forging of an ethical, responsible, and thoughtful approach to life. In understanding that she had been protected, yet left enough space to grow independently, Emily grasped the full measure of her mother's wisdom. That night, Emily sat quietly beside Sophia in the living room, the rain now a gentle patter against the roof. "Mom," she whispered, "I understand now. All the lessons, all the struggles. It was to make me the person I am today." Sophia smiled, placing a hand over Emily's. "Exactly, Emily. You were never alone, but you had to walk the path yourself. That is what makes your growth real." Emily leaned against her mother, feeling a profound sense of completion and clarity. The journey of hardship had transformed into a journey of self-discovery, and she knew that no fortune, however vast, could replace the strength she had earned. The morning fog hung low over the quiet streets, muting colors and softening the outlines of buildings. Emily Bennett stood at the threshold of her modest apartment, adjusting the apron around her waist. The uniform, once a symbol of hardship, now felt like armor, a daily reminder of discipline, resilience, and self-reliance. Her hazel eyes reflected both determination and a cautious hope, a far cry from the fear and despair that had marked her arrival at her mother's home months ago. She inhaled deeply, savoring the crisp air, then turned toward the staircase leading to her night cleaning job, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Her first coworker, Carla Rodriguez, appeared at the janitor's closet, a petite woman in her early 30s with dark, curly hair tied back in a practical ponytail, warm brown skin, and expressive eyes. Carla was practical, straightforward, and had a humor that could cut through the monotony of late-night cleaning shifts. "Morning, Emily," she said, handing her a mop. "Ready for another night of saving the world one office floor at a time?" Emily smiled, the corners of her mouth lifting in genuine amusement. It was a joke they had shared during weeks of long shifts, but it carried a deeper truth. Each night, they were helping maintain spaces where people thrived, a small but meaningful contribution to the world around them. As Emily worked, her thoughts wandered to the lessons she had internalized. Each swipe of the mop and scrub of the sink reminded her that dignity was earned through effort, not handed down by fortune or circumstance. She recalled the financial lessons taught by Sophia, the unwavering support behind the scenes, and the revelation of the family fortune. Yet, the richest knowledge she carried now was the value of her own labor, the satisfaction of responsibility, and the profound joy in helping others. Later, during a break, Emily approached another coworker, Mrs. Helena Parks, a stern yet kind woman in her 50s with tightly coiled silver hair, sharp blue eyes, and a no-nonsense attitude tempered by years of mentoring younger employees. "Helena, I've been thinking. I want to help some of our colleagues who are struggling financially," Emily said, her voice tentative but firm. Helena raised an eyebrow, her lips curving in a small smile. "That's commendable, Emily. Not everyone finds it in themselves to extend a hand, especially when they've only just learned to stand on their own." Emily nodded. "I know. That's why I want to do it responsibly. Maybe small contributions, sharing tips on budgeting, or even helping with part-time work." Helena's eyes softened. "You're learning something far more important than money. You're learning empathy, leadership, and the ability to make a real difference. That's the real transformation." After her shift, Emily returned home to her mother, Sophia, who was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The familiar scent of garlic and rosemary filled the room. Sophia, with her graceful posture and chestnut hair catching the golden light from the window, looked up from chopping vegetables. "How was your shift?" she asked, her voice calm but filled with genuine curiosity. Emily set down her bag and joined her at the counter. It was enlightening. Each task reminds me why I want to continue this path, not just for myself, but for others who might need guidance or support. Sophia's eyes gleamed with pride. You're becoming the woman I hoped you would be. Responsible, thoughtful, and aware of the impact of your choices. That evening, Emily sat with a pile of brochures and course catalogs from the local university. Social work programs had become her focus, inspired by the struggles she had witnessed and her own journey of recovery. The thought of helping women who had experienced domestic challenges, financial instability, or personal loss gave her a sense of purpose that no wealth could replicate. Her fingers traced the edge of a brochure for the master's program in social work, and she envisioned a future where her experiences, combined with professional knowledge, could transform lives. The next few weeks became a rhythm of work, study, and reflection. Emily managed her night shifts, contributing meaningfully to the workplace while carefully budgeting her earnings. She began discreetly offering guidance to coworkers facing hardships. A young man named Leo, only 24, with tousled brown hair, green eyes, and a timid demeanor, struggled with debt and housing insecurity. Emily guided him, sharing practical budgeting tips and offering encouragement. Watching him gain confidence and stability brought her a satisfaction that eclipsed the relief of paying her own bills. Sophia observed silently, impressed by the maturity and moral compass her daughter now displayed. They no longer spoke in terms of control or protection. Their conversations were mutual, collaborative, and filled with mutual respect. Each decision Emily made was autonomous, yet informed by the values Sophia had instilled: integrity, responsibility, and compassion. The mother-daughter relationship had evolved into a partnership between equals, bonded not by dependency, but by shared purpose and love. One Saturday, Emily invited Carla and Helena over to the apartment for a casual dinner. The room was modest but warm, decorated with simple touches: fresh flowers, candles, and framed family photos. Carla wore a relaxed denim shirt, her curls bouncing with each movement, laughing easily, while Helena, more reserved in her navy blouse, shared wisdom from her decades of experience in the workforce. Emily listened and contributed, facilitating conversation and connection. She realized that leadership was not about authority or position, but about nurturing growth, empathy, and collaboration. As the weeks progressed, Emily began planning a small program to assist local women in need, combining her earnings with the discreet family resources Sophia allowed her to manage. She visited a women's shelter, meeting directors and residents. Among them was Grace, a gentle woman in her 40s, tall with long auburn hair and kind hazel eyes, who had faced financial abandonment and was now rebuilding her life. Emily spent hours talking to Grace, learning about the systemic barriers women faced and identifying how her support could make tangible changes. The work was exhausting but deeply fulfilling, each interaction reinforcing the lessons of patience, empathy, and accountability she had absorbed during her own hardship. At home, Emily shared her plans with Sophia, who listened intently. "You've transformed, Emily. From someone who once depended on wealth and external validation to a woman who understands effort, responsibility, and compassion. I couldn't be prouder," Sophia said softly. Emily felt a warmth that went beyond pride. It was the comfort of understanding, connection, and mutual respect. The bond between mother and daughter had shifted from dependency to equality, from love tinged with obligation to love earned through shared growth and understanding. That night, Emily wrote in her journal, a ritual she had adopted to process her thoughts and emotions. Milo, her gray and white tabby, curled beside her, purring softly. She reflected on the journey, the fall from luxury, the struggle with debt, the discovery of the family fortune, and the ultimate lessons of resilience and ethical responsibility. Her tears were not of sorrow, but of gratitude, clarity, and empowerment. She had learned that true transformation came not from wealth or external rescue, but from the courage to face life's challenges, the empathy to help others, and the wisdom to guide one's own path. As the moonlight spilled through the windows, Emily looked at her mother and smiled. "Mom, I think I finally understand. Transformation isn't just about surviving hardship. It's about learning, helping others, and growing into the person you were meant to be. And I want to continue this journey on my own terms, with my heart open and my mind aware." Sophia reached out, squeezing Emily's hand, tears glistening in her eyes. "Yes, Emily, you found the true value of life, work, and love. This is only the beginning, and I know you will continue to inspire and uplift others." The night ended with a profound sense of completion and renewal. Emily had not only reclaimed her life, but had embraced it fully, understanding that her strength, compassion, and moral clarity were far more valuable than any inheritance. She had learned to balance independence with responsibility, personal growth with service to others, and love with mutual respect. This chapter of her life marked a new beginning, one where she was empowered, purposeful, and deeply connected to the people and values that truly mattered. The summer sun poured over the small coastal town, casting golden reflections on the waves that lapped gently against the shore. Emily Bennett stepped out of the car, her sneakers crunching on the gravel driveway of the family beach house. The salty breeze tangled her chestnut hair around her face, and her hazel eyes sparkled with a mixture of anticipation and determination. This house had always represented warmth and family memories, but today it would become the foundation for something entirely new, a purpose bigger than herself. Sophia Bennett appeared on the porch, wearing a simple linen dress, her chestnut hair pulled into a neat bun. Her elegant posture and warm brown eyes exuded both authority and maternal care. She smiled gently at Emily. "Are you ready?" she asked. Emily nodded, her mind racing with plans and ideas. "I am. I want this house to help women who are facing hardship, women who need a safe place to rebuild their lives." Sophia's smile widened, pride mixing with relief. "It's a wonderful idea. I've seen your growth, Emily. You're ready to create something meaningful from what you've learned." Their first step was to survey the house for practical adjustments. The living room, once filled with sofas and delicate knickknacks, would be converted into a communal space. Bedrooms would be modest but comfortable, and the kitchen stocked with essential supplies. Emily ran her fingers over the polished wooden banister, feeling the weight of memory and responsibility. Each room was a reminder of her past mistakes, but also a canvas for future redemption. She thought about the women who would walk through these doors, hoping to offer them more than shelter. Hope, guidance, and a sense of dignity. They were joined by Marcus Allen, the Foundation's operations coordinator, a tall man in his early 40s with neatly trimmed dark hair, sharp green eyes, and a calm, analytical presence. Marcus had previously worked in nonprofit management and had a reputation for organizing programs with efficiency and compassion. His sharp jawline and the faint scar on his left cheek hinted at a childhood accident that had made him resilient and detail-oriented. "Emily, Sophia," Marcus greeted, shaking their hands firmly. "I've reviewed your proposal. The location is ideal, and I believe we can implement a pilot program within 6 weeks." Emily explained the vision. providing temporary housing, life skills workshops, and emotional support for women facing domestic abuse or financial crises. Marcus listened intently, occasionally nodding, making notes. We'll need to hire a few staff members and establish clear policies. It will be a challenge, but achievable. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and lavender, Emily and Sophia sat on the porch discussing logistics. Milo, Emily's gray and white tabby cat, stretched beside them, purring softly. The presence of the familiar companion brought a sense of calm. "Mom, I want to be actively involved in everything," Emily said. "From budgeting the expenses to designing workshops for the residents. I want this to be a learning experience for me as much as it is support for them." Sophia placed her hand over Emily's. "You've matured so much, Emily. This is your chance to transform not just your life, but the lives of many others. I'll guide you, but you must lead." In the following weeks, Emily immersed herself in preparations. She met with staff candidates, interviewed potential residents, and coordinated with local social services. One afternoon, she encountered a young woman named Naomi Carter, 28, with short auburn hair and striking blue eyes, who had fled an abusive relationship and was seeking temporary shelter. Naomi's posture was guarded, her movements cautious, but her eyes held a glimmer of resilience. Emily approached her gently, speaking with warmth and sincerity, assuring her that this was a safe space. Naomi's initial hesitation melted as Emily shared stories of overcoming adversity, helping her see the possibility of a stable, hopeful future. Emily also collaborated with Lauren Mitchell, a psychologist with a petite frame, honey-colored hair tied in a bun, and a gentle demeanor, specializing in trauma counseling. Lauren's soft-spoken guidance and empathetic nature complemented Emily's hands-on approach. Together, they developed workshops addressing financial literacy, self-esteem, and stress management. Each session was designed to empower residents, teaching them skills to regain independence and confidence. While managing these responsibilities, Emily continued her night cleaning shifts, balancing work with foundation duties. Her mind often reflected on the contrast between her past life of privilege and her current journey. She recalled Ryan's betrayal, the financial ruin, and the lessons learned through hardship. The experience shaped her perspective. Wealth alone was meaningless without compassion, purpose, and resilience. Each act of service reminded her of the value of hard work, patience, and empathy. Sophia observed Emily quietly, marveling at her growth. She remembered the young woman who had arrived, desperate and broken, and now saw a leader, someone who could channel pain into action. "Emily, your approach is remarkable," Sophia said one evening, as they reviewed the program's progress. "You are building more than a shelter. You are creating a community, a safe haven, and a model for empowerment." Emily smiled, feeling both pride and humility. "I realize now that the challenges I faced prepared me for this. I know what despair feels like, and I know how to help others rise above it." As the program launched, the first residents arrived. Among them was Marisol, a single mother of two, petite with long black hair and warm brown eyes, who had faced financial abandonment. Watching Marisol and her children settle into their rooms filled Emily with a profound sense of accomplishment. She guided them through household routines, shared budgeting tips, and offered emotional support. Observing their smiles and hearing their laughter reminded her that her journey had purpose beyond personal recovery. Emily also formed bonds with other women in need, listening to their stories and offering practical advice. She began documenting their progress, reflecting on the resilience displayed by each individual. Every success, no matter how small, reinforced her understanding that empowerment came from combining resources, knowledge, and compassion. The house had transformed from a family sanctuary into a vibrant hub of support and healing. In quieter moments, Emily would walk along the beach, feeling the sand under her feet, contemplating the significance of her actions. She thought about her past mistakes and the opportunities she had been given to make amends, not with money alone, but with purpose, leadership, and empathy. She realized that hardship had taught her more about humanity and responsibility than wealth ever could. Her heart swelled with gratitude for the guidance of Sophia, the support of Marcus and Lauren, and the courage of the women she was helping. One night, after returning from the beach, Emily and Sophia sat by the fire pit outside the house. The sky was dotted with stars, and the sound of waves provided a soothing backdrop. "Mom, I feel like I've finally found my purpose," Emily said softly. "It's not just about surviving. It's about giving back, using what I've learned to help others, and creating something meaningful from our family legacy." Sophia reached over and squeezed her hand, tears glistening in her eyes. "You've turned pain into power, Emily. This is the true essence of growth, empathy, and responsibility." Milo purred beside them, curling into a ball as the fire crackled. Emily's thoughts drifted to the future, plans to expand the program, offer educational opportunities, and provide holistic support for women. Each decision was guided by her experiences, her values, and a commitment to making a difference. She felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that the house, once a place of family memories, now held the potential to change lives and offer hope. By the end of the week, Emily had established a routine. She balanced her work shifts, foundation responsibilities, and studies, navigating each challenge with determination and grace. The transformation was visible not just in her actions, but in her demeanor: confident, compassionate, and grounded. Sophia watched from the kitchen window as Emily walked along the garden path, sunlight illuminating her thoughtful expression. The mother-daughter duo shared a quiet understanding. Love, respect, and shared purpose now defined their relationship. The first week concluded with a small gathering to welcome the residents. The air was filled with laughter, conversation, and a sense of belonging. Emily moved among the guests, introducing workshops, answering questions, and providing reassurance. She noticed how each woman's shoulders straightened, how smiles appeared where worry had once dominated, and felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She realized that the house had become more than shelter. It was a beacon of resilience, learning, and hope. That night, as Emily prepared for bed, she reflected on the journey from despair to empowerment. The challenges she had faced, the responsibilities she had embraced, and the lives she was touching all reinforced a crucial lesson. True purpose comes from action, compassion, and the courage to transform pain into opportunity. She closed her journal, Milo nuzzling her hand, and whispered, "This is only the beginning. We are just getting started." The chapter ended with Emily looking out at the moonlit ocean, feeling a deep sense of connection to her past, her family, and the community she was building. She understood that true wealth lay not in money, but in love, purpose, and the ability to uplift others, a lesson she intended to carry for the rest of her life. Tom Tat, Chapter 6, Tieng Viet. Emily Jake Swat Bien Ngoin Hanghi, Hekuagia Jinthan, Noitam Trucho Punugap Bao Luk Hoach Kukon Tai Chin. Sophia Jongi. Vaka Haikung Hao, Saidong Chong Trin Tu Thien, Quan Li Tai San Va Tao Gia Tricho Kong Jong. Emily Hok Kach Sudung Tai Nguyen Va Traing Hiem Banthan Jegup Ngoikas, Bien Kokon Tan Suk Man Va Kam Tong. The morning sun filtered through the large windows of the beach house, casting a warm glow on the polished wooden floors. The scent of salt and pine from the nearby forest blended with the aroma of fresh coffee brewing in the kitchen. Emily Bennett sat at the small wooden table by the window, her hazel eyes focused on the envelope in front of her. Today was the day she had been waiting for, the final confirmation of her acceptance into the master's program in social work. Sophia Bennett appeared in the doorway, her chestnut hair loosely tied back, her simple white blouse and jeans giving her an air of elegance without ostentation. At 65, she carried herself with a graceful poise that reflected both experience and warmth. Her eyes, a soft brown, glimmered with pride and maternal affection. "Did it arrive?" she asked, placing a gentle hand on Emily's shoulder. Emily's lips curved into a smile as she opened the envelope, her fingers trembling slightly. "I got in, Mom. I start next semester." The words hung in the air like sunlight breaking through clouds. Sophia's eyes shone. "You've earned this, Emily, not because of money, but because of your perseverance, your resilience, and your heart." The past year had transformed Emily. From a woman once consumed by material luxury and blind trust in others, she had grown into someone grounded, empathetic, and capable of making decisions that honored both herself and those around her. She recalled the sleepless nights cleaning offices, the careful budgeting of every dollar, the long hours spent organizing workshops for the women in the shelter program. Each struggle had forged strength, patience, and a deep understanding of human dignity. As she sipped her coffee, a light knock sounded at the door. Marcus Allen stepped in, his sharp green eyes bright with enthusiasm. His neatly trimmed dark hair glinted in the morning sun, and his tall frame carried a sense of quiet authority. "Emily, I just received news from the local education board," he said. "Your scholarship application for advanced social work research was approved. They were impressed with your hands-on experience with the shelter program." Emily's heart leaped. "That's incredible, Marcus. I didn't expect—" He raised a hand, smiling warmly. "You've already accomplished more than most students in their first year. They see the same potential we do." Emily felt a surge of gratitude, but also humility. She remembered Ryan's betrayal, the financial ruin he left behind, and how those experiences had shaped her growth. A letter from him sat unopened on her desk, a reminder of a chapter closed. The man who had once promised love and stability now seemed irrelevant in the life she had built. Her peace no longer depended on his recognition or approval. Later that afternoon, Emily walked along the beach with Naomi Carter and Marisol, two of the women currently residing in the shelter. Naomi, with her auburn hair slightly wind-tossed and her bright blue eyes filled with cautious optimism, had begun attending weekly life skills workshops. Marisol, her long black hair catching the sunlight and brown eyes warm with maternal determination, had started budgeting for her children's education. Emily felt a quiet satisfaction watching them. Their small victories reflected the purpose she had nurtured from her own trials. Sophia joined them, Milo padding along beside her. The gray and white tabby, now 3 years old, twined happily around Emily's legs. Sophia's presence was steady and grounding, a constant reminder that love and guidance had been present even in Emily's darkest moments. "You've done remarkable work, Emily," Sophia said softly. "Not because of money, but because of heart. That's true wealth." Emily's gaze drifted to the horizon, waves glinting like scattered diamonds. "I finally understand, Mom. Wealth isn't what's in the bank. It's the lives we touch, the respect we give and earn, and the love we cultivate. I feel rich in ways I never did before." Back in the house, Emily reviewed the program's progress reports. Lauren Mitchell, the trauma counselor with her honey-colored hair tied neatly, petite frame and empathetic demeanor, had compiled detailed notes on the residents' improvements. The data showed rising self-esteem, increased independence, and a stronger sense of community among the women. Emily realized that the house had become a hub of transformation, a place where resilience, compassion, and opportunity converged. The next morning brought a letter in the mail. Emily recognized Ryan's handwriting immediately. She opened it briefly, but made no effort to respond. The letter expressed regret, apologies, and a plea for forgiveness. She read it with detachment, noting the irony that the man who had caused so much pain now sought comfort from her. Emily folded the paper, placed it back in the envelope, and set it aside. "He's irrelevant now," she whispered to herself. "I've moved on. My life is here, with people I respect, with purpose and love." In the following days, Emily balanced her foundation responsibilities with her studies. She continued night cleaning shifts, not out of necessity, but as a reminder of her roots, the lessons learned, and the humility gained. Residents often marveled at her dedication, noting how she shared the workload, guided programs, and still pursued higher education. Her actions inspired confidence, showing that leadership and service could coexist with personal growth. One evening, Marcus Allen came to discuss plans for expansion. "Emily, we've been approached by a few local businesses," he said, adjusting his tie nervously. "They want to sponsor workshops and provide funding for more residents. This could triple our capacity within a year." Emily's heart swelled with both excitement and responsibility. She knew that each decision carried weight, and the lives of women and children depended on careful planning and empathy. "We'll do it," she said firmly, "but we'll maintain the integrity of the program. Every resident deserves personalized attention, respect, and dignity. That's non-negotiable." As the sun set, painting the sky in warm oranges and deep purples, Emily and Sophia sat on the porch. Milo purred beside them while the ocean whispered its steady lullaby. "Mom, I feel like we've come full circle," Emily said. "From despair to understanding, from privilege taken for granted to true appreciation. And now, from survival to purpose." Sophia's eyes glimmered with tears, her voice steady. "You've grown into a woman who knows what matters. Money, luxury, and empty promises don't define life. Compassion, resilience, and love do. You found true wealth, Emily, and it's yours to share." Emily's gaze drifted over the waves, the moon reflecting silver streaks across the water. She thought of all the women she had helped, the friendships formed, and the lessons learned. For the first time, she felt complete. The life she had once thought she wanted had been a mere illusion. What mattered was here, in connection, in service, in growth. She had faced betrayal, loss, and uncertainty, yet emerged stronger, wiser, and more empathetic. The chapter closed with Emily embracing her mother, feeling the warmth and solidity of Sophia's arms. They had traversed a journey that neither could have imagined, facing the darkness of past mistakes and discovering light in purpose and love. Emily had found independence, fulfillment, and the courage to create a meaningful life. True wealth, she realized, was not counted in dollars or possessions. It was measured by the lives touched, the hearts healed, and the love freely given and received. The moon rose high, casting a serene glow over the beach house, the waves whispering stories of resilience, hope, and lasting change.